Stop hoping for your business to grow and start mastering the formula for success that every entrepreneur needs to grow their business. Join us for 5+1 Mastery, where every week we go in depth on how to grow your business the right way. Learn more at 5+1mastery.com.
It's what I call an accidental business. A buddy of mine, a
Yes.
college friend, said, "Hey, I'm having trouble sourcing a bunch of Macs for one of my Fortune 500 clients." I said, "Let me take a crack at it." And so I got it done, made a couple bucks. He kept feeding me deals. After 18 months, I'd done $600,000 worth of business. I looked at my wife and said, this is a real business. I'm gonna quit my $60,000 a year job with its gold-plated benefits, and I'm gonna become an entrepreneur.
I'm your host, Chaz Wilson. I bring you successful entrepreneurs, add valuable wisdom to your journey, and help you succeed. Welcome to Connect, Share, and Prosper.
Hey everybody, this is Chaz Wilson. Welcome to another episode of Connect, Share, Prosper. I'm so excited to be with you guys. Remember, every Monday, noon Central, on the Master Network's Facebook page, I bring you successful entrepreneurs, thought leaders, successful business leaders who are going to share successes, challenges, the ups, the downs, and just kind of pull back the curtain and share that success with you, because we know it's tough to run a business. And today will be no exception. Let me help, or you guys help me welcome our guest today, Henry Daas. He's a serial entrepreneur, business and financial coach, screenwriter, an avid traveler, golfer, and tennis player. He also actively trades the financial markets and manages a few select people's money. He resides for the time being in New Jersey, has been married for almost 30 years. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
And has 3 mostly adult boys. So you'll have to tell me about that. But guys, welcome Henry to the program. Henry, welcome.
Thank you, Chaz. Great intro.
So you say mostly adult boys, right?
Well, they're 19, 23, and 28. I was talking about them chronologically, but emotionally, I suppose we could say they're mostly adult.
Yeah,
they're good boys, though.
That's awesome. I have 4 boys myself, and
good for you.
Boys are an interesting thing, and I have one daughter in there as well.
Wow.
So let's talk about kind of for you. You have serial entrepreneur in your title, and I'm curious. I mean, we have tons of entrepreneurs who subscribe and watch this program on a regular basis. Tell me about, for you, when did you get into the entrepreneurial game, and when did you know you had that bug?
I knew it pretty much from the get-go. I come from a family of, doctors, lawyers, business owners. Entrepreneurship was sort of in our DNA on both sides of the family. So I was exposed to that from a very early age. Although, interestingly, my father was kind of a failed entrepreneur. He tried it, and it didn't work, and he never tried it again.
Okay.
Right around the time that I was born. But my uncles ran a factory in Brooklyn, and a bunch of other family members had started all sorts of different businesses. So I started my first one as a side hustle back in 1991. I was working for a subsidiary of the New York Stock Exchange as a computer programmer. And it's what I call an accidental business. A buddy of mine, a college friend, said, "Hey, I'm having trouble sourcing a bunch of Macs for one of my Fortune 500 clients." I said, "Let me take a crack at it." And so I got it done, made a couple bucks. He kept feeding me deals. After 18 months, I'd done $600,000 worth of business. I looked at my wife and said, this is a real business. I'm gonna quit my $60,000 a year job with its gold-plated benefits, and I'm gonna become an entrepreneur. That was the start.
And there it was. And now today, fast forward. I mean, I know there's a journey there, but today you're helping to coach entrepreneurs, and I'd like to jump into that because this is a tough time for people who own a business. It's interesting. I was on a call with some leaders, in a church organization, and they were saying, hey, let's kind of talk about our parishioners and find out, are they employed right now? And I said, well, hold on, that's important, but let's also not forget the burden that the entrepreneurs are carrying too. Like, they're technically employed, right? Because they have a business, but it can almost be 3 or 4 times harder because they might be working just to keep the business open, not even put money in their own pocket. So it's an interesting time right now.
It is.
What are some of the things you're telling entrepreneurs they need to be thinking about doing and looking forward to?
So one of the things that I did when this when COVID first came about, we came back. We were actually on a little ski vacation out in Utah, where my youngest son goes to school. We got back on the 14th, and the world had gone crazy, obviously, with the lockdown. And so I opened up my coaching practice to anybody and everybody for 3 months. April, May, June, it was free to the entire world. In fact, tomorrow's the last day, because Wednesday will be July 1st.
Yes.
I just looked at it this morning because I had a coaching call, and I keep a database of everything. I did 86 calls over this past almost 90 days. So just about one a day, with entrepreneurs near and far. The vast majority of them were really struggling, but I could break it down a little bit. The first say 6 weeks of that was kind of the deer in the headlights moment. Folks, some of their businesses had gone. I talked to one person who was a travel blogger doing, pretty well. It went from doing well to zero overnight. I mean, travel was just shut down.
Yes. Yeah.
But then I also spoke to other folks whose business had, tripled. Folks who were in the remote learning space. So they were scrambling as well. But the vast majority were people who all of a sudden business hit the brakes.
Yeah.
Then all the stuff came out with the PPP loans and the other loans, tons of information flying back and forth, the government basically just printing up free money and throwing it at people. So there was that phase. Now we're kind of, now that we're basically 3 months into it, it's sort of the taking stock. What's going on? Where are we going to go? How long is this going to last? So we've already seen in 3 short months of multiple phases. Where I started the conversation with people was, look, it's the old oxygen mask thing. Put yours on first before you attend to anybody else. So I asked people flat out, if this goes on for a year, which is not inconceivable, personally, are you going to be okay? You're going to be able to put food on the table, take care of your kids and whatever? And universally it was a yes. Some of them I think were maybe not so sure, but even in that panic phase, they're like, no, we're the business is in trouble, but I think we're going to be okay. So that's number one.
Yeah.
Got to look after number one.
Yeah.
Because businesses come and go. Like I say, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had 6, 7, 8. I've lost count of the businesses, and some of them, some of them did tremendously well. Others crashed and burned. It's just the nature of multiple entrepreneurship.
And do you have a sense of, for yourself, the difference between why some succeeded and why some didn't?
Well, at the beginning of the, I had a call with a fellow that I know is actually in Thailand, since my business is he's in Chiang Mai, very international. He's a British fellow. So I quoted Churchill. I said, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Right.
So he liked that a lot. He actually sent me a sort of a Zoom background with that I used for a little while. And I was emphasizing that to people. You need to flip this on its head. Once you get through the initial feeling of why me, right? Why is this going on? I can't believe it. And that reactionary feeling of, I wish I could turn back the clock and all that stuff. None of that stuff's going to happen, but it's a phase that you go through. Yeah. Then it's like, okay, we need to look at opportunities here, because there are going to be lots and lots of entrepreneurial opportunities, and it's going to take some time to shake out. But if you're not paying attention and looking, they're just going to pass you by. For instance, in the stock market, I write a couple blogs, and I send out a bi-weekly newsletter to my FQ, what are called the FQ, the financial intelligence followers. And I read that 800,000 people in the U.S. alone had opened new brokerage accounts. That means that people are got their head on a swivel and looking at opportunities. Yeah. The market made a calamitous downturn and has now sort of clawed its way back. So that's an opportunity.
Yes. And so how do you think people can recognize in the midst of all this, obviously opportunities are somewhat personal, but how can, is there guiding advice, to look at these opportunities and know, hey, that might be something I should be looking at?
Well, number one watchword is don't be a predator, right? Don't go out there and And I read stories in some of the communities that I'm in of folks, scalping N95 masks and stuff like that.
Right.
It's like, that's not what we're talking about for
Right.
opportunities. There's a difference between an opportunity and being an opportunist.
Correct.
Right. Hoarding a hand sanitizer and trying to sell it on eBay.
Right.
Nah.
You saw that with people, they were hoarding toilet paper and then trying to sell it, right? Like,
before we left on the 7th of March, my wife said, did you go to Costco and buy toilet paper? I'm like, we've got 12 rolls of toilet paper. We should be more worried about what's going in the other end. Can we get food and worry about what's coming out there?
Right.
We'll deal with that.
Right.
That's all part of that deer in the headlights panic reaction that people have. And that's normal. But the quicker that you can get through that, and most of the entrepreneurs that I've talked to lately on these little freebie calls have pushed past that point. And now our conversation is more about, okay, I'm in this business. So I deal with a lot of location independent businesses, a lot of online SaaS platforms and such. Interestingly enough, back in April, Amazon changed the rules for what are called FBA and affiliates and cut their commissions by 50%.
Yep. I'm aware of
So
that.
you look at
There's
that,
a lot of our
right?
people were part of that.
Yeah. A lot of people got hurt. On the opposite side of it, Facebook ads got much cheaper. And now Facebook is going through its own reckoning moment where Coca-Cola and Unilever and a whole bunch of companies have decided to flex their muscle and say, hey, no, you're not a free marketeer. You have to start putting some regulations into political discourse. Yes. So those are like little mini opportunities. So if you have an opportunity to advertise on Facebook more cheaply, you may have an opportunity to reach a market that you wouldn't have been able to reach before.
Yeah, I think there's tremendous amount of opportunity right now. And to your point, like, it has to align. This is why I think it's important for business owners to have a set of core values, because the opportunities are out there right now. Every tragedy, it's interesting. I heard somebody say, it was a story about a gentleman who was towards the end of his life, and as the signs of aging for him were hard on his body physically, loss of some sight and some hearing and mobility. He'd been a great athlete in his life, so that was hard. And he was asked, what's something kind of his perspective, and he said, it's interesting. When you can't do what you've always done, you only do what matters most. And so it's interesting to look at prioritizing and engaging in the priorities that make sense, and then opportunities, shedding them through the filter of your core values. Does it still align with what I do? Does it still align with who I am? And does it make sense going forward to see those? Because they're everywhere right now, right? Like you just said, you can never miss a good crisis. The opportunities are big right now. To see that. So let me shift gears. I want to ask you a question, and this gets a little into a somewhat of a triggered hot area for some of my guests, and
I can't wait.
Yes, it's been this battle recently with some of my their battle with some of my guests recently. The conversation has moved towards the idea of a lot of business owners feeling right now that while safety is important and all of the politics of it right now, but they're feeling a high level of infringement into their businesses. Some being told they're an essential service and some being told they're non-essential, yet their business feels essential to them. And some have had some opinions of what this means for us as business owners in a political climate. What are your thoughts on that right now?
I'm reminded of George Orwell's Animal Farm, and I paraphrase that as well. We're all in this together, but some are more together than others. I'm paraphrasing Napoleon from that nice little 100-page book, which has I have had Orwell on the brain for a while, for a number of years. There's a bit of a paradox here because small business is the engine that really drives this country.
Yes.
In my opinion, that's where the innovation comes from. Yet about half of the folks in this country are employed by a less than like 1% of all companies. So we have these gargantuan companies, and then we have 30 million little companies.
Right.
So going back to your idea of core values, my life is my number one core value. So I'm a almost 61-year-old type 2 diabetic. I'm in good shape and my numbers are good and all that stuff. But I'm super careful about where I go. I'm about 20 miles from New York City. I drove into the city yesterday because my 28-year-old son's renting an apartment from a friend of mine, subletting. City's a ghost town.
Yeah.
Some people are wearing masks. Other people are not wearing masks. There's been a lack of leadership. Somebody 3 months ago should have said, wear a mask. It's 100 degrees outside. Nobody wants to wear a mask. I get it. I get it. But it's not that really a big a deal in terms of infringing on your personal liberties or whatever, because you're not wearing it for you. You're wearing it for me. Right? Mm-hmm. So if we're all in this together, I'd like to see you be together along with me. Yeah. As an entrepreneur, trying to slice and dice this as to what's essential, what's non-essential. So for instance, I got back in April, I was getting emails from this gun range. I had gone there for a networking event, and so I'm on their mailing list. And they're fighting, tooth and nail to lobby with the governor that they're an essential business. Mm-hmm. I can't blame them for that.
Right.
But you're not essential. I'm okay. Sorry. Yeah. You're just,
here's my counter argument to that. And this is why I love this. And thanks for playing this debate with me.
Sure. Love it.
It makes it interesting for our listeners. But to them, they're highly essential.
Oh, no doubt.
Right. And so that's to me, I think the balance, right, is in the we're in this together, I get, but yet let me say it this way. We're all in the same lake, but we're all in different boats. What your situation is different than mine, and mine is different than yours, even though we're all in the same lake. And so I think, though, that's to me where the frustration for entrepreneurs goes, is that they say, hey, we're all in this together, and yet I'm here in Texas, and a salon owner gets shut down and she gets thrown in jail, and she,
right.
How does that feel like we're all in it together? Do you know what I mean? Like
I'm with you. And from her perspective, this is my livelihood.
Yes.
Right. And are you going to help me out when the landlord, I was just watching the news this morning talking about landlords, especially in New York. And I've been warning my followers, it's like, look, we're in a little bit of the eye of the hurricane, right? I don't believe that there's first wave, second wave, or any of that stuff. One of the healthcare professionals put it really well. Say this is a forest fire, and as long as there is timber to burn, it's gonna burn.
Right.
It's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
But unemployment benefits are going to fade away. We're going to be 2 months from now. It'll be starting fall. We'll be back into flu season. People will be indoors much more. I've noticed there's restaurants out. My wife and I were down in New Hope, Pennsylvania. We finally went to our first restaurant in 3 months, but it was outdoor and there were fans blowing and everybody was wearing masks. So we felt safe and we felt comfortable. And I was happy to give them the business.
Yeah, I agree.
We went to a couple other stores. There's a hot sauce store there, Susie's Hot Sauce, where my one son who likes to collect hot sauces, happy to go in and spend $70, right? Because for me, our living expenses have been cut by 40%. I own my home. I don't have a mortgage to pay. Again, 60 years of planning will get you to the point where when the tide goes out, as Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out is when we see who's swimming naked.
Right.
Well, we did a lot of careful planning, but much of America, and especially entrepreneurs, they're living out of cash flow. And they have to, because the tax code is set up in a way so that it's de-incenting you to keep money. Most companies, I have a client whose business we started a few years ago. It's about $1 million company. We started maybe 4 years ago. He's going to be close to a $10 million company now. And I asked him flat out, I said, and he's got 100 and something employees. I said, and I know his money situation because that's the nature of being a coach. But I said, even looking at your money situation, how long could you last if there's no income coming in? 3 weeks?
Right.
4 weeks, maybe?
Right.
right?
That's rough.
And that's normal. So the PPP
it
money comes out, the grant money comes out, but that's finite.
Yes. Yeah, and that's why focusing on it as a business owner, a primary skill that you develop, and having that skill that you can focus on bringing to the marketplace, you can enhance that skill, but that's what will continue to pay you over time. If these loans, these grants, like you said, they're finite. They're going to go away at some point. But sharpening your saw, getting out there and focusing on your skill and getting it out to the marketplace. I mean, I think most entrepreneurs at this time are probably working harder than they've ever had to work, which in some ways is good. There's a blessing in that. They're
Sure.
getting their skills improved and they're working, but many of them are working, 100-hour weeks to make the same amount of money, they were making before.
That's not sustainable for the long haul.
No.
And not knowing when this crisis is going to abate. That's why I used a year as just sort of a ballpark idea.
I think you're right. I actually think a year is a good framework to operate from. And I liked your analogy of like a hurricane. You're in the eye of it right now. It feels like, oh, some things are getting normal. Well, here in Texas, they're slowing down the opening now again. They're kind of halted everything because
they are,
right?
because they opened a little bit too quickly and a little too radically, I guess. But that's okay. People will learn. Americans are smart. Right. They, I know the media plays up the whole culture war thing and things like that. I'm in, New York and New Jersey, where people have a reputation for being maybe a little curt and a little rude, right?
Tough.
We're not necessarily the friendliest people. What I like to say is we don't suffer fools, because I lived in Manhattan for 30 years, so
yeah.
I know what it's like. But I lived through 9/11. People were nice to each other. They understand we're in a crisis. This little microcosm here in the Northeast, we went through our incredible, difficult moment. And now I have a friend in Georgia who I sent a text to, one of my oldest friends, known him since the 4th grade. And I warned him. I said, you guys are in for a world of hurt. Do not believe the headlines. This thing is going to migrate. It's going to leave us, and it's going to end up with you. And I wasn't saying it in a way to be a know-it-all. I was just saying, hey, forewarned is forearmed. Be aware of this.
Agreed, yeah.
Don't listen to all the headlines. Look at the world around you. I go to stores. I go to, Walmart or Target. Everybody wears a mask. Everybody's kind of unhappy about it because it was 95 degrees outside yesterday and it's uncomfortable. But this is the sacrifice that we have to make for the entire country to benefit, all of us together.
Henry, appreciate the conversation. The time went quick.
No, it did. That was good though.
Fun. Very quick. So how can people connect with you? How can they find you? Are you on social media? Where can they connect with you?
I have a couple websites. I have one that's just what I call my vanity site, henrydaas.com, DAAS. I also have DASS because people misspell my name. I'm belts and braces. My primary business is DAAS Knowledge. DAASknowledge.com has my business coaching, my financial literacy course, even something that I call Daas Masterminds. I'm doing curated mastermind groups. In fact, I have one starting tomorrow on investing. And then I have, my Henry Daas site has my screenplays and my baseball card collection and my the silly stuff.
Yeah.
But it helps people understand what I'm about.
Agreed.
Right? I'm more than just a business coach. I have a lot of varied interests.
Agreed. Man, Henry, thank you for the insights today. Thanks for the back and forth. I appreciate it. It was a good discussion. I mean, it's an interesting time, and entrepreneurs are looking to, how do I navigate through this? And looking for people who can be a voice for them and a rock for them is important. Something they can, people who've been through crisis before, that's helpful to know. Look, well, you'll get through it. You got to be strategic and smart and look through it. So, guys, listening today to Henry, some of the knowledge that we took from it today is important to implement and be prepared and be looking forward to making your next couple of moves so that you're ready to see those opportunities as they come to you. Again, always, guys, remember, join me every Monday, noon Central, on the Master Network's Facebook page, where I bring successful business leaders, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs to share their successes, their challenges, so that we can learn from both and we can build a business and a legacy beyond the business. So join me next Monday on the Master Network's Facebook page. Till then, be well.
Stop hoping for your business to grow and start mastering the formula for success that every entrepreneur needs to grow their business. Join us for 5+1 Mastery, where every week we go in depth on how to grow your business the right way. Learn more at 5+1mastery.com.